I think I figured it out. I think I cracked the code on what is wrong with this cast. They're all demons. I think we need to call in Huntrix to sing for them. That's the only possible explanation for the bizarre behavior this season. From Jordan drinking chicken, Edmond jumping into a cabinet, Joe calling a PS4 a PS5. It truly reminds me of that first scene in K-pop Demon Hunters where the flight attendant is trying to water a plant with hot coffee. I feel like there's so many weird moments like that this season. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. Today I want to keep talking about this very cursed season of Love is Blind. I want to talk about episodes 7 through 9, the absolute dumpster fire mess that this season continues to be. Something interesting about this season so far that it's actually not very polarizing. As crazy and weird as it is, we're all kind of in agreement that this cast is just very strange and this season is very chaotic. I think this is the first season where the vast majority of the comments agree with me pretty completely. I do think this batch of episodes had a bit more nuance. I expect a wider variety of opinions in the comments, but still the dumpster fire continues, the mess continues, the chaos continues. Let's get into it. And disclaimer, we are talking about real people. I know I hate on a lot of these people, but I would never reach out to them in real life in any direct way. This is just for fans of the show and haters of the show to discuss the season freely and the various topics that this show brings up. So I want to start with a couple that has kind of become our hero couple, and that is Megan and Jordan. They are low-key the strongest together, but relative to everyone else, that does not mean much. And I do think the success of this couple is pretty much exclusively due to Jordan and how he has handled the conflicts that have come up. He's pretty good at communicating and just kind of de-escalating the situation anytime an issue comes up. Like in the honeymoon, she was crying about how annoying he was at the pool party with everybody, saying like, oh no, we weren't an adequate enough power couple for everybody. And he's like, really? You think any other couple is giving power couple here? Like, we're doing pretty good relatively, and that's true. And by the end, he's just finding ways to make her laugh and reassuring her that they are doing well. Then later, once they move in together in the real world, she is stressing about meeting Luca, which I think is a very fair anxiety. She feels a lot of pressure about that, especially given this crazy timeline. I think it's kind of crazy to put a kid through that. But again, Jordan reassures her, tells her it's all gonna go really well. And he's also very good at explaining to her his boundaries around gift giving to Luca, because in case you haven't heard, Megan has a lot of money and she's excited to give Luca all these expensive gifts to kind of win him over. And Jordan explains that he doesn't really want to teach his kid those values. He wants to teach him to earn his things, work for his things, and he's also kind of instilled in him that quality time is more valuable than a gift. So he feels like if Megan just spends time with Luca, that'll be a lot more valuable. In these episodes, I admire Jordan's approach to parenting, that he is so engaged in his child learning. It's sadly and it's annoying that we don't see this representation often from fathers on TV. Definitely not on this show before. Also later on we find out he does not want to put Luca on TV. I'm not sure if it's his decision fully or if it's more Luca's mom, but oh my god, groundbreaking, protecting a child from exploitative reality television. I'm really glad someone's looking out for this child in that way, and I'm sure producers are upset. They hate that they can't have this satisfying scene of Megan winning over Luca on TV, but they'll get over it. I really hope Luca's parents stand their ground on this and don't cave to producers' wishes. So the Luca of it all is kind of the least of Jordan and Megan's issues. You'd think it'd be a bigger thing, but Jordan has been upfront about Luca the whole time. Megan's been okay with it. She just feels pressure because she cares about how she comes off to him and wants to get along. It's very normal. Ultimately, this couple does have bigger issues, and it's what we saw from the pods, their lifestyle lifestyles, their financial status, it's still not a great match. They're used to very different lifestyles. Like when they were moving into this very nice apartment that the show provided for them, I feel like Megan was walking around looking like that picture of Hillary Clinton. And apparently Megan is between LA and Denver right now. She doesn't actually live in Denver, which is kind of cheating to get on the show, but I guess we'll move past that. So she is shopping for a house and they go see this very large, beautiful home. Her budget is around $1.5 to $2 million. And this house is pretty giant for a family of 3. She really said, "Do you want the house tour? I can show you the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 6th bedroom." It's a beautiful home, and Jordan is gagged by the price, which is crazy. Like, they didn't discuss that. He felt weird asking, "What's your budget for this?" When you're gonna marry this person, you gotta start getting comfortable asking these deeper questions that matter to your life. He's worried about seeming like a mooch or like a financial burden on her because he would only pay like a small percentage of this mortgage. And on top of the finances, he just feels it's kind of too much house for what they need. He's a simple guy. He literally lives in a 1-bedroom and has given the 1 bedroom of his home, his apartment, to Luca, and he sleeps in the living room. I just feel like their opinions on this house after the house tour really sum up their general views on materialistic things. Like, she wants the bigger the better, the more expensive the better, and he's like, "I just need what I need and I don't need any more than that." There's some smaller examples too of their incompatibility with their lifestyles. Like when they go to lunch with her mom, he forgets what burrata is and he's saying he's a lot less adventurous with his food compared to her. Though I will say drinking chicken is its own kind of adventurous in its own unique, disgusting way. Those of us that watched the cast reveal knew it had to be coming. Like, I just knew a scene was coming where he was gonna make the chicken smoothie and drink it. And it happened, and it was disgusting, as expected. Megan even tried it, and she was disgusted. But yeah, I feel like this mismatch of lifestyles is their most overt issue as a couple. Another issue that's more subtle with this relationship is that it feels a bit one-sided. This comment really stood out to me. At the end of the honeymoons, Jordan was telling the boys how much it hurt him that she blatantly called him annoying, and that it was like a gut punch. And he was saying like, "Well, I'm glad in the real world we both work so much so that she doesn't have to spend that much time with me and be annoyed." I sensed some resentment building there. We never saw him express this to Megan herself. He never said like, "Oh, like that hurts, you calling me annoying." He like brushed it off. He comforted her, kind of prioritized her needs over his. And I feel like that resentment's just gonna build up and he's not gonna want to say yes. That's my best guess. It just kind of felt like what we saw, she was always like stressing about something and he was always comforting her, and she never had any moments of like reciprocating that energy and being someone he could lean on. So my prediction, just like last time, is that nobody's saying yes at the altar, and if someone does say yes at the altar, like they get married, I predict they'll be separated by the reunion. I just don't see it for anybody, and if anyone would, I guess it'd be Megan and Jordan. I feel like she's not taking it lightly that he has a son, and she's trying really hard to like meet Luca and meet his mom and just get them on board and feel good about all of that. At the same time, it's just like we see it all the time. People seem solid and then they say no. So I just don't expect it with this couple. And also, we did see Mike again. These episodes brought the Pod Squad party out, which, side note, were we in Colorado or were we in Texas for the Pod Squad party? Now I feel like when they do their season in Austin, they're not gonna have a theme for the Pod Squad party or they're just gonna reheat the nachos. So we saw Mike and he had a conversation with Megan and he was still playing his little games. He was poking and prodding, hoping to find a weak spot in Megan's commitment to Jordan. He did apologize for making her cry in that date where he threatened to walk out of the pod, and the apology felt phony to me. It felt calculated to like get her back on his side. He's also bragging that he would have gotten her like a better ring that she really wanted, that he was very tempted to slide into her DMs, but he didn't. He asked her point blank if she made a mistake picking Jordan. He just keeps giving these hints of like, I'm still down if you are, and she's not buying it. She's like, this cocky attitude is why I was apprehensive, and I kind of don't trust you'd be faithful. Clocked his tea real quick, but I do feel like she was kind of entertaining him a little much for how sleazy Mike is, but she wasn't giving him much to work with. He was trying, trust, but I hope we don't see Mike again. We'll probably see him at the reunion, but hopefully he's in the audience, like in the secondary area, not like the main couches. Okay, next couple is Allie and Anton. We actually still don't see that much of this couple, though a lot of issues did arise. The financial issue that they teased in the first batch came up. It was kind of what we expected. She wants to go to school soon and wants him to take on all of the household finances mostly. She's kind of high maintenance and wants to get her Botox, and he's kind of not into paying for all of that. So it didn't evolve into like a larger argument, maybe in the next few episodes, but they did have conflicts, and more was revealed in these episodes that helped prove my theory that Anton is a dog. He's sleazy. Allie and Anton were pretty solid in the honeymoons, but once they got in the real world, she met his best friend and his newish girlfriend, Melissa, and Melissa spilled the tea that Anton and Joseph, his friend, were big time party boys when they were single, and that they loved going to strip clubs, and she's kind of worried that for the bachelor party they're gonna go to a strip club. And Allie's very caught off guard because Anton had kind of blamed all the party boy lifestyle on Joseph, the friend, and said he's the party boy, he's messy, he's all these things, but he didn't admit that he was partaking in that lifestyle as much as he was. So when the girls get back to the table, Allie tells him subtly, like, you're in trouble, we have to have a talk, to confront him about this because she is very upset about it. But then after that scene, we never see that conversation play out. I was pretty upset about this. In the past, the editing has struggled depending on the season and how good the contestants are about, like, being down for conversations or following rules or like meeting up off camera, that kind of thing. But in this case, I feel like it's purely an editing decision that we didn't see Allie and Anton have the conversation about his party boy lifestyle, his strip clubs. Like, I don't know if he owned up to it. I don't know if he deflected again, if he blamed his friend, if he said, oh, his girlfriend's dramatic, exaggerating. Like, we don't know anything about how Anton responded to the allegations, but we clearly saw that Allie was uncomfortable about it. So I just wish we could have seen that conversation happen. We do see later scenes of them, but by then they're just kind of acting normal. I feel like there's no closure or resolution to that whole scene when they kind of made it the big cliffhanger of the episode. And then this couple's biggest conflict that we saw was kind of an overarching one, and that is his drinking. They both work night shifts, which is kind of crazy that they found each other. It makes sense, they're pretty compatible in that way. But after one of their shifts, we see them cooking breakfast, kind of having fun together, and he pours some mimosas. And she already is kind of uncomfortable by it. She's kind of like, yay, this is a celebratory thing, but also this can't be a regular thing. Like, I don't do this. She doesn't make it an argument in the moment. She just says these little comments. But then later we find out that this is a kind of daily habit of his to drink in the morning after his shift. And if you look back at a lot of their scenes together, there's a lot of hints about his drinking, like him chugging his drink at the reveal, him spilling his wine in the honeymoons, all of the stories from his best friend saying they used to close down the McDonald's early to just drink. He said that the only Spanish word Anton knows is cerveza. And when I started paying attention, it feels like every scene they show of Anton, he's either drinking or talking about drinking. She was uncomfortable on day one about the mimosas. She didn't make it a big thing then, but later she does tell the girls that she is uncomfortable with him having a daily habit of this. And yeah, I think it's concerning, especially like she's very uncomfortable by this, and he seems to think it's very not a big deal. His life is functioning just fine. They have not had it out about it, or they haven't shown us because they don't like to show us scenes of this couple. They're the couple that have had the least intense arguments. They're mostly just kind of discussions, and they make little snide comments. It maybe is a little on the passive aggressive end, but they're just not really hashing things out very directly. I think this drinking thing is gonna be what's gonna come up in later episodes. Do I think they're saying yes at the altar? No. We still haven't even seen their fight about how messy she is, which was in one of the teasers. And I just think these issues are pretty big. I think she's pretty uncomfortable, and he's probably like not realizing it's such a big deal to her. So next couple is a messy one. I mean, I could say that about every couple, but this is one of the messy ones. It's Edmond and Kalybriah. We left them on a rough note at the end of the last episodes. They were kind of the cliffhanger. Edmond had a tantrum about how she used to sleep around in the past, and now she is making him wait till marriage to have sex. But the next morning we do see them debrief. He apologizes for his behavior. He was pretty wasted, as I already talked about at length. And she is still kind of like, I'm a little stuck on that fight. It was kind of a lot. I mean, I would be too if I was her. But they kind of come together. They both chilled out. They're in a good place, but it doesn't last too long, unfortunately for them. We honestly didn't see too much of this couple these episodes. One of the main scenes we saw was them meeting his mom, which is kind of a complicated situation. We learned at the pods that Edmond had a really rough upbringing in and out of foster care. From what we saw of his mom, she seems pretty eccentric. She does end up liking Kalybriah a lot, despite judging her pretty harshly on her Instagram. She approves of her. She wants to give her these beads from Ghana, a gift with a lot of cultural significance, but his mom is also pretty toxic. A lot of the time she's talking shit about all her other daughter-in-laws, saying that they snitch on her to her sons. My guess is probably because she is saying some out-of-pocket shit to them. And she's also pressuring Edmond really hard to have a baby, like now. She wants a baby now. For me, it's just a lot of opinions for a parent who was less than ideal to her children. We really don't know all the details, and I'm sure it's very complicated, but if I was Edmond, based on the information we have, I would be like, Mom, you are lucky to even be in the room. Not that I'd say that directly to her face, but I sure would be cautious to take any advice from her or even take her pressures about anything seriously. Like, I'd be like, okay, sure, Mom, whatever. But Kalybriah rolled with the punches and she totally won her over. She was very charming to her, and that probably meant a lot to Edmond. This couple has these moments that they seem sweet together, but a lot of the time it's just like Edmond is just bouncing off the walls and Kalybriah is just like, she's just kind of exasperated a lot of the time. She kind of treats him to like she's above him in ways, and I feel like that was pretty clear in their final fight, which it was sad. They came together at the beginning of these episodes, and then by the end, they were toxic fighting again. And this time around, it was mostly her agitating him, even though his reactions are a little bit dramatic. She's the one who brought the fight out at the Pod Squad party and poked him until they were fighting to this level. So basically what happened is that he was talking to Nick and Annie, and Nick was saying like, well, I'm not perfect, nobody's perfect, and Annie said, you are perfect. Edmond had this reaction of, it'd be nice to hear that sometime, even if it wasn't true, but he said it very jokingly, very lighthearted. And Kalybriah heard that and was like, are you comparing our relationship to other people? And just started making it this bigger deal, this more serious thing. She's talked to him a lot about not comparing their relationship to other people, and she's frustrated that he keeps doing it. Yes, comparison is not a great thing, but he's not going to change this deep-rooted thing about him in a couple of days. And also, if she has a problem with it, she should probably just like table it while they're in this big social gathering and whatever. Okay, bring it out in public and start fighting. But then she flips it on him and is saying, you brought this issue here in public to the light. And it's like, he didn't. He was just jokingly like, Oh my God, that's so nice. Annie would say that to you, Nick. He was very jokey and in a good mood. And Kalybriah came in very Debbie Downer style and was just like, how could you compare our relationship to other people? And that brought out real emotions from Edmond, and he reacts to things very dramatically. He was saying, like, I'm gonna die to people. And it's like, okay, guys, we're doing too much here as usual, but I do blame her for the escalation of this fight. It was all her, and she was blaming him for escalating it when it was her who escalated it in the first place. She just ends up crying, very upset with him, doesn't understand him. I mean, me and you both, girl, I don't understand him either. And she doesn't want to talk to him. By the end of the episode, I was like, don't talk to me. It's sad for this couple. They're clearly toxic. They're clearly not ready for marriage. I don't think he's ready at all. I don't think she's ready, at least not with him. And it's sad because definitely in the pods and reveal, they were my number one couple to root for. They just seemed fun. Even though he was super quirky and eccentric, I thought they were going to be kind of the hero couple that we could rely on for the season, and they were nothing of the sort. So next is Madison and Joe, another train wreck. I'm so mad they're still together at the end of these episodes. Like, why haven't they broken up already? This man, average Joe, he's just so low effort. And Madison is on the other side of the spectrum. She's very affectionate and showed a bit of neediness in these episodes as well. Though I do think her neediness might be influenced by his complete lack of interest in her and lack of effort in her. It feels like she's trying to mold him into the man she wants in a husband instead of accepting how he is and either moving forward with that information or breaking up if it's not what she wants. And I don't completely blame her because average Joe is such a blank slate of a man. She thought she could just fill in the blanks and he would become the husband she dreamt of. But no, average Joe just wants a low effort relationship. Also, something I have to keep reminding myself with this couple is that he's giving her a lot of mixed signals because she mentions that they're having a lot of sex and great sex, but when he has to be there for her in any other way that's not sexual, he's not really there, not really present. So maybe she's confused about whether he's into her or not, because sexually he seems very into her, and then everywhere else he seems totally disinterested and distanced. I feel like their sexual relationship kind of validates her investment in the relationship, or like why she would want it to continue. But maybe he's just getting off. I don't know. So we open this batch of episodes continuing their very uncomfortable scene after the pool party and the honeymoons, and him being completely incoherent and disoriented and her being freaked out by it. This was such a mess. I mean, I do think he was just so fucked up and wasted that there was no reasoning with him. She was crying and telling him she was upset, and he gets mad at her for crying because he's busy laying in the bed and doesn't want to come comfort her. So from the bed, he's like, are you okay? I can hear you crying, like all annoyed about it. He's like, I'm in bed, I'm laying down. But then she comes in the bed and lays down, and then he gets up looking for snacks. And I'm like, so you couldn't get up when she was crying, but as soon as she got in the bed, you're like, oh, did we get dinner? So she's very upset. She's very embarrassed by how this all looks. I mean, man, the psychology of being on international Netflix television while also fast-tracking this show is just crazy. Every episode I watch, I'm like, wow, this show is insane, and anyone who would go on it must be deranged, because who would do this? I think this cast is kind of proving me right. Yeah, average Joe, he's just like, I can't believe you're doing this, and she's mad like, you're blaming me for doing. They had met, I don't know, 3 days prior to this, so I don't blame her for being freaked out. Like, this is the first time you see your significant other partying, and this is the result. They're just that disoriented. It's just very unsettling. And he eventually just starts laughing too. It's just unhinged. They end up sleeping in separate rooms, which I think is the best idea. And he still has no clue what happened. He's like, I have no idea what she needed, when she was very clear she just wanted to be comforted, or just like him act normal, I don't know, just approach her with any kind of love or kindness, but he was way past that. So we finally get a debrief to that scene, and she actually apologizes first for just not knowing what he needed. He does kind of a quick apology too, but his main focus is just like, let's just get back on track. This was a recurring cycle with them. They would fight and then they would make up, and I feel like every scene of him apologizing to her felt like the producers had to pull him aside before the scene and be like, okay, so here's what you did wrong, here's what you should do better. It feels very like any second he's gonna be like, I'm sorry, I didn't know line. I kept expecting that from him. It felt like I was watching Joey Tribbiani on Friends in one of his soap operas, like acting like a romantic lead or something. I just feel like Joe is often just dead behind the eyes when he's with Madison, and we've seen it before that some people's eyes just look like that. That's just their face. Remember Kwame and Chelsea? They're still going strong. So I'm not saying there's no hope just based on the dead behind the eyes thing, but they have other issues, I think. Way more issues than Chelsea and Kwame had. So once they move in together and everything, they have this other fight, which is pretty similar to the one before, but Joe is not completely wasted and intoxicated. He's definitely coherent. And actually this argument is the one that happened in the kitchen. It was a step in the right direction for Joe. He tries to communicate to her that he's proceeding with caution on this experiment, that he's not 100% sure about saying yes at the altar, but she is always talking about how she's so sure about him and their relationship that he finds it off-putting, and he's trying to tell her that, like, it's kind of off-putting, you just never express any doubt. He feels it's not like totally human. He expects her to be a little worried, a little bit scared about how this will all turn out, which I think he was finally being kind of honest, though he's not the best at communicating it or being very direct about it or giving her any kind of validation or reassurance. So she gets very emotional and worked up about this and is kind of pissed off, even though she does admit she has concerns and worries. So she's kind of like being honest for a second, being like, I am concerned about our relationship because you pull away, you act like this, you whatever, you have all these doubts. I think Joe had a point there that she doesn't voice these concerns, and it makes him feel like, am I crazy for having doubts? When she does have doubts, she's just not being honest about it, but she takes it as like, well, I'm gonna be a negative bitch then. Very, very defensive, and saying like, why would you even propose if you're not sure? You're not marriage minded. I mean, I do agree with her, but not because of this conversation, if that makes sense. Like, he does not seem marriage minded just based on what we've seen and his like lack of interest and effort in her. But in this conversation, he was expressing kind of a normal amount of doubt, and she was very upset by that. It's just, they're just a horribly matched communication style relationship. For him, it feels like he's realizing in real time across these episodes that this experiment is crazy, and like he's crazy for doing it. He kind of wants to voice that, but she's so desperate to keep the relationship going. She's very offended. We do also get a resolution to this argument. He apologizes yet again the next day when they go visit his apartment. It's just a cycle with them. They fight, they make up, and they're looking around his apartment. It's giving very r/male living space subreddit. He only owns self-help books that have never been opened. At least he knows he needs help. I don't even know. I'm trying to find anything to give him credit for. But yeah, she had put her ring back on. They're back on track. Basically what we saw of this couple, I think they're horribly matched. I think there's no marriage material here in this relationship. He does not seem ready to me at all. He seems to want marriage based on him signing up for the show, but in reality doesn't seem to want to put in any effort. And for her, she just seems a bit needy, seems very affectionate, and isn't getting that from him. I don't know if she's always super needy or if it's like Joe's lack of effort that has made her be needy in this relationship. It's hard to know. But there's no way they're saying yes at the altar. There was an interesting average Joe kind of moment at the Pod Squad party. Again, he was starting to get pretty wasted to the levels of the honeymoons. We don't know yet if that's where it's ending up. At this party, I saw Joe show the most energy he has in the whole season, and it was to hate on Nick. He's pretty drunk and makes some messy comments about, you know, Nick might be a nice guy, but I freaking hate him, but his hat's cool. And it's getting close to incoherent territory. And it's just bizarre. So our final couple is Nick and Annie. My favorite. Yay. Honestly, these episodes showed Nick in a pretty decent light. Annie, not so much. I still don't like her at all. Nick at least has shown some maybe redeeming qualities. This couple seemed really solid in the first batch of episodes, but then got a lot less in these episodes because of Annie. She like picked this random fight at the end of their honeymoons. I mean, she seemed pretty wasted too, perhaps on something. I can't tell if her eyelashes are just weighing down her eyes or if she's like zooted high on something. I don't know. Nick mentioned how none of the guys on the show are 100% sure about what they're going to say at the altar. They don't know for sure they're going to say yes to their partners. And this really pisses her off because she's all in. She's so sure. She wants to marry Nick tomorrow. And it's kind of the same as Madison in that way. Girls, we gotta take some time to evaluate the situation in the few weeks we have. We can't be saying day 2, I'm gonna marry him tomorrow, like you just met the guy. You haven't seen him in real life. She's really mad at him. He is very persistent, trying to like communicate it, talk it out, understand what she's mad about, why she's bringing this up. He's honestly approaching it really, really well. On the opposite end of the spectrum of Joe, who Joe is like, can you get this pesky woman out of my room, basically. Nick is very like trying to hold her, trying to comfort her, but also asking questions like, why are you bringing this up? Reassuring her, saying, I feel very strongly about you. Doing all the right things, honestly, and Annie is still pissed. To me, sometimes Nick goes into this like youth pastor voice where he's trying to be kind of inspirational or something, and he's just like, let's just go to sleep. Tomorrow's a new day, whatever. But even then, I give him props for not running away from Annie, approaching her with kindness, trying to communicate, not giving up, while also standing strong on his stance that he's not going to tell her, I'm 100% sure I'm saying yes at the altar, just to like appease her, sticking to his guns about like, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm excited to figure it out and I feel very strongly about you. I love you. He's giving her reassurance while not compromising his stance on the matter. And I feel like if Joe had acted half as nice as Nick did in that incoherent night, Madison would not have been that upset. This fight was just such a bad look for Annie. Like, she was blowing this thing way out of proportion. This fight lasted forever. I could not believe it wasn't over. And yeah, I don't know why some of these women are so 100% on this man they met 3 days ago and then mad when their partner has some healthy apprehension about this crazy weird experiment. Pretty much all of our strongest couples from Love is Blind have had moments of doubt, moments of apprehension. They're very like, we're taking it day by day. Lauren and Cameron, at the altar, we didn't know if they were going to say yes or no. Especially Lauren was pretty coy and like, I don't know. I mean, it seems great, but I'm waiting to see. I'm taking my time to figure it out. In the small, you already have such a small window. Like, take your full time to make the decision. It's a huge life decision. These women are just delulu or just desperate to like have this fairy tale fantasy thing when it's like, you gotta live in the real world a little bit and like figure out if you are compatible. It's wild, and Annie was a mess. I mean, she was probably wasted as well and not someone that could be reasoned with, just like all the other people that have been wasted these episodes. So aside from that fight, this couple's main issue is that they live in different places. She lives in the city in Denver, he lives in the mountains, and that's one of the big reasons he has apprehension and wants to see how this long distance or flexible kind of lifestyle will play out in the real world. It's a very valid concern on Nick's part. And then Annie's over here like, I'm not worried about it, since she doesn't like to think hard about a major life decision, I guess. And then once we see Nick's home in the mountains, it's clear that he belongs there, and she's starting to see more like, oh my God, he loves his home. He has a million outdoorsy hobbies. He's built all these things. He sees himself raising a family there. Like, he belongs in the mountains. Even when we see his mom says like, the first time I took him to the mountains at age 3, he was like, I want to stay here forever. I just love it. It definitely feels like the city life isn't really for him, especially not long term. And she's kind of realizing that, but she's also like, well, but the first few months you should live at my apartment in the city. And he's trying to make it work. He's like, I'm not going to sell this cabin, but, you know, we can go back and forth, whatever, make it work. But she owns a salon in the city, so her work is in the city. It's just a major lifestyle thing that doesn't really match up. I don't know if it's enough to break them up, but I think the apprehension Nick has had and concerns are very valid and normal and something to be considered. And Annie's just wild for not wanting to think about it or consider the possibilities, or that they're not the right match or anything. She's just completely like blinders on. I'm all in on you. And she's like, I don't need you in my life. I want you. She was so mad in that argument. Girl, chill out. So Nick and Annie also kind of have this underlying issue. It's very subtle, but it's like this thing about his manliness. They did show us this comment that Annie made about like her dad and how he was like, I hope you find the manliest guy in the show or whatever. It's like her dad is skeptical if she can even find a man manly enough for her. Nick seems to have some complicated feelings towards masculinity. Like when they go into his house, he's like, is it too masculine? I don't know, it's just a theme that keeps coming up with them. And there's a lot of speculation online, especially because this couple was homophobic in the pods. I do think him saying he was a size queen is a little wild. I'm like, sir, where did you learn those words? There's also the story about his mom having suspicions when he was younger. Like, I very much understand the speculation, but the masculinity thing is more of a concrete thing that came up in subtle ways through these episodes. And then at the Pod Squad party, it came out that everyone hates Nick, kind of. I feel like on the girls' end, it's because of the love bombing thing with Kate and the girls feel that Nick is phony, he's fake, which I definitely see that argument. I think he does give that kind of overly rehearsed kind of vibe a lot of the time when he's speaking. And then apparently the boys also hate him. Particularly, we saw Joe and Jordan making fun of him, of like, that in the bedroom he would be very vanilla, very boring. And we did get that weird Joe confessional where he was saying he didn't like Nick at all. I'm really not sure if the boys hate him because he's phony, fake, like what the girls are seeing, or maybe because he's dorky, or because he's effeminate. My guess is a combination of all of those with this group, who seems to have a lot of toxic masculine tendencies. On the one hand, I'm like, I see it. I don't like Nick at all. There are reasons to not like him, but I also would feel bad if they just hate him because he is more effeminate or dorky in that way. They've spent a lot more time with him, so they definitely know him better than I do. But I am curious, and I'm going to be looking out for that. With the Pod Squad party also came, you know, the love triangle people, and we saw Nick talk to Kate, and they really didn't get much resolution there. Nick really tried to apologize and take accountability for how he treated her, but at the same time he denied certain things that happened the way Kate remembered them happening. So I don't know that it was full accountability, and she's still weirded out about how he love bombed her and then took back the I love you. And apparently he had said that he couldn't see himself saying I love you to Annie, and Nick is now denying that was ever said. Kate got to confront him at least, and that was satisfying. Their relationship didn't really get much resolution since he is backtracking certain statements. And also a moment I'd kind of been waiting for was for Annie to find out that Nick was saying I love you to Kate. Nick claims to Kate that Annie knows it all. Annie knows that he did say I love you to Kate. I don't know if Kate believes him. I don't know if I believe him. When Annie is talking to the other girls, Allie tells her that he had said I love you to Kate, or that he had like love bombed Kate, and Annie is kind of taken aback and gets angry with Nick and just starts ignoring him when he tries to come up to talk to her and stuff. So she's pissed off at the end of these episodes. We will have to see next week if they come back together and resolve it. It looks like there's more fights on the way in the teaser for them. And Annie did talk to Brendan a little bit, and she was super weird about that. She was saying Brendan was giving all this intense energy, loving her in the pods, and now he's not giving her that energy. And because of that, she made the right choice. And it's just like, shut up, girl. Of course he's not gonna come in saying I love you to you when you're an engaged woman to somebody else. Like, that would be so rude. Did she expect him to not move on? It was just bizarre. And Brendan was actually not letting it go. He was like, I still think we'd be great together and stuff, like to the other guys, telling them. But he was smart enough not to tell her that, because it's like she's engaged and he's respecting that. It was just bizarre. She was like, oh, he was fake and he's not giving me that same energy now. And it's like, the circumstances are very different now than when you were talking before. Annie really came off so poorly in these episodes, and I don't think Annie and Nick are making it. He seems a little more cautious about this all, and I feel like her actions are helping inform that. I don't know if it's the best match here. And she just kind of has these toxic tendencies when, I don't know if when she's drinking or whatever, and just picks these fights. And then later it's just like, yeah, I'm just a sensitive person, whatever. It just kind of brushes it off. I sound like a broken clock, but no hope for this couple either. Final update is we did get a small update about Patrick and Anna specifically, and Kacie. Patrick and Kacie were our engaged couple that did not make it past the reveal because Kacie was not physically attracted to Patrick. And there was really nothing too surprising here, especially with the Kacie stuff, just as I'm sure we all saw coming. She ended up ghosting him and not meeting up with him back in Denver once the cameras were down. The thing that surprised me a little is that she was still dragging him along, giving him the runaround via text, saying, let's just tell everyone we're broken up for now, but refused to take any of his calls to like talk it out actually. And then once he asked for the ring back, she ghosted. She said no. And that's just so tacky. Like, after all you put this man through, then you just don't give the ring back. You're an asshole about it. You ghost him. You don't even take a call. It's messed up. And Patrick was finally like, okay, I'm hurt. And that was bad. And then we had the closure conversation with Patrick and Anna. And this was pretty confusing because, I mean, I do see some of her points, but he admits to her that she was his number one. We saw that, it's true, and that Kacie was a distant second. But then Anna's like, well, if she was a distant second, why did you end up engaged to her? That's kind of a big jump, and that's kind of crazy. And so she's like, so I don't believe you that you would have proposed to me. And like, I get that, but once you see the footage, girl, you'll see, like, you were the number one and you left, you ghosted. And in the real world, yeah, he wouldn't just like propose to someone immediately after that. But in Love is Blind world, you're exploring multiple connections, and he had a number two and he went with it. I don't know. I do think he was just scared to leave alone, and he ignored all the incompatibilities that him and Kacie had. So that's why I do see Anna's point. It's like weird to propose to someone else when you had strong feelings for your number one. But at the same time, Anna's kind of putting up a double standard here because she had two connections. And when she left, she said, you know, I was sad and hurt for both of you, for losing both of you, Blake and Patrick. And Blake never showed up. I don't know if anyone remembered, but he wasn't there. So I see Anna's points about, like, if you felt that strong about me, you probably shouldn't have gotten engaged to someone else, giving them like a half-hearted partner, basically. But from what we saw, Anna really was Patrick's number one, and they would have ended up engaged had she stayed. And she ghosted. And the thing that pissed me off the most is that we got no answers about why she ghosted. I think on social media and whatever, on Netflix's website, she has said, like, oh, her parents were very worried about her, thought she was kidnapped, and that was just stressing her out. And I get it, but it's just like, I don't know, something's not right there. And I think she was a little hard on Patrick, given that she was also exploring 2 connections at the same time. And again, it feels like she's probably protecting herself from rejection, just saying like, you were never gonna propose to me anyway, like, whatever. You're fine, I'm fine. Let's move on. Those are all our couples, and this is our train wreck season of Love is Blind in Colorado. It's a weird one, a bizarre one. These episodes were less weird and bizarre somehow than the first 6 episodes, but it's still such a mess, and it's sad we don't have any real love stories to root for here. It is what it is. Let me know what you think about the season so far. I actually forgot to ask y'all that in the first video. I was so drained by the end of part 1 of this series. At the end of the video, I was just like, okay, bye. I didn't ask y'all what y'all thought, but y'all let me know anyway in the comments, and that was nice. Y'all know what to do by now on YouTube. I think these episodes left more room for nuances and different opinions, so might agree with me, you might not. It's whatever. It's just TV. But it was nice while it lasted in the last batch of episodes that, like, we all were in agreement. We had a nice moment of understanding each other, all of us being in this weird season together. It looks like the next batch of episodes is episodes 10 and 11, and then a week after that it's episode 12, which I assume is going to be our finale weddings episode. And then they usually announce the reunion episode on like the Sunday after the finale a lot of the time. We'll see. If you're new here, I usually do live streams on finale night and then on reunion night, and I kind of talk about all of the outcomes and the weddings and the finale. Once I see the next 2 episodes, I'll determine if it warrants a whole video or if I will wait to discuss those episodes in the finale live stream. But that's usually what I do, and if you can't make it to the live stream, the video stays up. So if you're keeping up with the commentary and the conversation, you can just watch it at your own leisure. But if you want to show up for the live stream, it's fun. People make comments about the whole season. We talk about the season as a whole. I like to make a little time capsule for the season, so it's kind of like a little party. And then for the reunion, we just talk about any new developments and any tea and the looks, that kind of thing. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous to keep up with me, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!